Welcome back, everybody. You sent in some really cool research about this ShowUI thing,
Uh-huh.
an AI that can like mess around with graphical user interfaces. So you're
Yeah.
talking like
Yeah.
websites and apps, all the stuff we use every single day.
Yeah.
And today we're gonna, try to really get into
Mm-hmm.
what makes ShowUI special
Mm-hmm.
and, what all the hype is all about.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's not just another AI chatbot, right? They're really pushing this as
Right.
something that can
Yeah.
actually use these
Sure.
interfaces,
Yeah.
almost like a personal assistant.
Right. And that's what's so fascinating. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the articles that you sent
Uh-huh.
compared it to like having an AI that could like book flights for you or
Yeah.
schedule meetings or even do your finances for you,
Mm-hmm.
all while like navigating the digital world just like we do. I mean, that's
Crazy, yeah.
that's a huge leap.
Huge leap, yeah.
So like what's the secret sauce here?
Well, the developers are highlighting three main innovations.
Yep.
They call them UI-guided visual token selection,
Okay.
interleaved vision language action streaming,
What?
and a very specific approach to how they train ShowUI
Oh,
on data.
those are some
Yeah, that's a mouthful, I know.
yeah, some pretty technical names there.
Yeah,
So let's
let's break them down.
break them down one by one.
Yeah.
So first up, this UI guided visual token selection thing.
Mm-hmm.
My notes say that it's all about making ShowUI really efficient.
Uh-huh.
But like, what does that actually mean in terms of like how it
Yeah.
works,
Right. Well, think about how our eyes work, right?
Okay.
Like, we don't pay attention to every single little detail in our entire field of vision.
Yeah.
Like,
We focus on like
we
the
focus on the points of interest.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
ShowUI is kind of doing something similar. So instead of processing every single pixel
Mhm.
on a screen, it uses this technique to like
Okay.
identify and
Mhm.
prioritize just those important visual elements.
So it's like it can cut through all the clutter.
Exactly.
It's like zero in on what actually matters.
Seasoned web surfer.
Yeah.
Who knows exactly where to look.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so efficient,
Right.
because by ignoring all those redundant areas,
Mhm.
it like drastically reduces the computational power and time that it needs to process all this information.
So it's like way faster. maybe
Way
than that.
faster. The
Yeah.
developers claim it's sped up training by like 1.4 times,
Oh, wow.
which is huge, right? Like
Yeah.
in the world of AI, like that's a big deal.
That makes sense. The faster you can train an AI, the faster
Sure.
you can get it out there doing stuff.
Exactly.
So, okay, now what about this interleaved vision language action streaming?
Okay.
I mean, this is where things start to feel like a little
It does, right?
sci-fi,
It really does.
So like, how does that work?
So basically, it's how ShowUI
Oh.
takes that visual understanding and
Okay.
actually translates it into actions.
Okay.
So it learns to like perform actions within a GUI, right? Like
Yeah.
like CLA, CK, type EE, scroll.
Yeah.
But it does it in like a standardized format.
So it's almost like it's learning like a
That's a good way to put it.
digital sign language,
Yeah.
like a way to communicate with the interface.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating is that it doesn't just, perform these actions like in isolation. Like
Yeah.
ShowUI actually maintains a memory
Huh.
of its past actions and observations.
No.
So it can handle these like
Okay.
complex multi-step processes,
Yeah.
even if like, the layout of the interface changes or something like that.
So it's not just reacting to what it sees at that
Or
moment.
quirks,
It's
yeah.
actually building like
It's like building a mental model of the whole process,
Yeah.
remembering what it did before and adapting as it goes.
right. So like if a pop-up window suddenly appeared
Yeah,
while it was booking your flight,
exactly.
it wouldn't just like
Yeah.
freeze up.
Right.
It would be
So
able
it
to
could use its understanding of the task,
yeah.
its history of actions,
Yeah.
and its ability to interpret those new visual elements,
Right.
and just keep going.
That's really crucial.
Huge step forward, yeah,
Okay.
for AI that can like truly navigate our digital world.
This is all very impressive, but I have to admit I'm a little skeptical here.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even train an
Yeah.
AI to do all this stuff?
That's the question, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
not like a school for digital assistants.
Exactly. No.
So how do they do it?
So that's where that third innovation comes in
Yeah.
the training data set.
Okay.
And this is where the developers get really smart.
Oh.
They didn't just feed ShowUI like any and all data that they could find.
Okay.
They were really, really picky.
So it's not about quantity. It's about...
It's about quality.
Yeah.
It's like giving it a gourmet meal, you know?
Right, right.
Instead of just stuffing it with junk food.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they chose very specific data sets
Okay.
that were very rich in like visual information,
Well,
focusing on things like buttons, icons, menus, like the building blocks of any graphical interface.
right.
And they even trained it on data
Okay.
from a mix of like web, mobile, and desktop environments.
Wow. So they were teaching it to not just like recognize images.
Yes.
But to understand like
learn the language.
the language of the interfaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like teaching it the grammar and the syntax of the digital world.
Okay.
Pretty wild. That's amazing. And what kind of results did they get with this approach?
They got some pretty impressive results, actually, even though it's a relatively small model, right?
Okay.
It's only 2 billion parameters.
Okay.
ShowUI achieved some pretty remarkable results.
Okay.
They tested it with something called zero-shot screenshot grounding, where it had to locate specific elements on a screenshot based on text descriptions.
Okay.
And it managed a 75.1% accuracy.
Wow.
Which is pretty incredible considering, you know, it had never seen those specific screenshots before.
Wait, hold on. Zero-shot screenshot grounding.
I know.
That sounds really complicated.
Yeah, so imagine you show UI a screenshot of, I don't know, like an airline booking website or something.
Okay.
And then you give it a text description, like find the button to select the number of passengers. Even though it's never seen that specific website before, ShowUI can use its understanding of those visual elements and their usual functions to correctly identify the right button on the screenshot. So it's like applying its general knowledge of GUIs to these new and unfamiliar situations.
That's a big deal, right?
It is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really suggests that ShowUI is capable of a level of generalization that we haven't really seen before.
Yeah, this is where things start to get really...
It does, yeah.
It gets really interesting.
Because it's not just another AI that can like...
It's not just recognizing images.
You know, recognize images or understand text.
Or understanding text.
It's something totally different.
Totally different.
It's learning to see the digital world through our eyes and interact with it in a way that like until now...
Only humans could do.
Humans could do.
Yeah.
I mean, this is...
Yeah, this is big.
This is huge.
This is big.
Yeah, this is huge.
This is exciting stuff.
This is exciting stuff.
Yeah, and you know, there's one other part of ShowUI we kind of glossed over that I think is worth digging into a little bit. Which is like how it actually figures out which parts of the screen are those important visual elements.
You mean like that UI guided visual token selection thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
How does that actually work?
Yeah, we talked about it being efficient, but like how does it actually like do that? It can't just be magic.
It's not magic. Definitely not magic. It's actually a really clever algorithm. So imagine ShowUI takes a screenshot. And then it divides it up into like a grid. Almost like putting a checkerboard over it.
And each square on that checkerboard, they call it a patch.
Okay, so I'm picturing it. But like, how did that grid help ShowUI understand what it's seeing?
So what it does is ShowUI uses like the color information from each patch. Those RGB values, you know, to create something called a UI connected graph.
A graph.
Like
with dots and lines.
Dots and lines, exactly. Like back in high school math class. Yeah. So in this graph, each of those patches becomes like a dot or a node. And then if two patches that are next to each other are the same color, then they get connected with a line. So what happens is the algorithm, it naturally creates like these clusters of visually similar patches.
So like if a big chunk of the screen is like a plain blue background, all those patches
get clustered together.
Yeah.
And those big same color clusters, they often represent like the background areas of a GUI or like empty spaces, you know, the stuff that isn't really visually important for the task.
So that's how ShowUI knows to just ignore those parts.
Yeah.
And like save all that.
Save all that processing power.
Processing power, yeah.
Exactly.
Smart.
Yeah.
But couldn't it just like merge all those similar patches?
It's a good question.
Into one big blob and just make things even more efficient?
So that's where it gets even trickier.
Okay.
So if you just merge everything, then you lose like important information about the position. Right. The elements. Okay. Imagine you merge all the patches that make up a button. Okay.
Like you wouldn't know where the edges of the button are, or like how it's positioned compared to other things on the screen.
If ShowUI needs to actually click that button, knowing where it is,
you gotta know where it is.
It's pretty important.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So instead of like just merging everything, what ShowUI does is it selectively samples tokens from within each cluster while remembering where those tokens were originally located on that grid that we talked about. Okay. They call it token selection.
Okay, so it's like ShowUI is finding the perfect balance between like simplifying the image to make things faster.
Exactly.
But not losing those like
losing the details, the spatial details that it needs to actually interact with the interface.
That's really cool. So this clever trick led to like a big reduction in redundant visual tokens, about a third, which speeds up training significantly.
So it's all about efficiency.
Efficiency. Yeah. That's one of the big reasons why ShowUI is so efficient.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
Good. Yeah.
All this technical stuff is really cool, but you know me, I always want to like bring things back.
I know you do. Always got to bring it back to the real world.
The real world. Yeah. So like we touched on the potential business uses earlier. Right. Like what are some concrete examples of how ShowUI could actually be used?
Well, let's start with something everyone loves or maybe hates. Invoices. Imagine a company that gets hundreds of invoices every day. Each one formatted a little bit differently.
Right. Yeah.
Processing them manually is a huge time suck.
A huge time suck. Yeah.
ShowUI could potentially automate that whole process.
I'm all ears here.
Okay.
How would that work?
So first, an AI equipped with optical character recognition, or OCR, would capture all that text data from those scanned invoices. Okay. Then ShowUI would step in and use its visual understanding to like identify all the key fields, invoice number, dates, items, amounts.
So it's not just copying the data.
It's not just copying. It's understanding what that data represents on the invoice.
Okay, that's huge.
And then ShowUI can actually like validate that information against the company's rules. Right. Like if an invoice has unusually high amount, it could be flagged for like human review. Right. And then once the data is validated, the AI agent could like automatically input all that stuff into the company's accounting software.
Wow. So it's not just saving time on data entry. Yeah. It's also
reducing errors and it's potentially catching problems early on.
Yeah, that's a big win.
That's a big win for businesses.
Yeah. Okay, what other applications are we talking about here?
Let's think about software testing. Okay. Nobody really enjoys that process, right? Yeah. So with ShowUI, you could potentially automate the testing of new software. Okay. It could run through all the steps our user would take, clicking buttons,
filling forms, navigating menus, and look for any bugs or glitches.
So instead of having like a human tester doing really
repetitive work,
ShowUI could be like the ultimate QA tester.
The ultimate QA tester.
Working 24/7.
Exactly.
And like finding all those edge cases that humans might miss. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, and then there are the customer service applications that we talked about.
Yeah, like a chat bot.
That
they can actually see. What the customer's seeing. And like guide them through troubleshooting steps.
Imagine that, right? Yeah. Like visually.
That would be game changing.
It would be amazing.
Yeah, it'd be like having a tech support person like right there with you.
Exactly.
Pointing at the
button
you need to click.
You need to click.
Yeah.
No more trying to like decipher confusing instructions over the phone.
Right, exactly.
This is exciting stuff.
Yeah.
But it also makes me think about like
it does.
the bigger picture here.
It really does.
You know?
Yeah.
Like if AI can
truly
understand and interact
with GIs like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it raises some
big questions.
Big questions about the future of work.
Yeah.
You know, like
big questions.
What jobs are going to be impacted?
Yeah, exactly.
How are we going to adapt?
How are we going to adapt?
I mean, it makes you wonder, like, if AI can handle all these, like,
if AI can handle all the
repetitive rule-based tasks,
then like, what's left for humans to do?
What's left for humans to do? That's the question.
Yeah, and maybe more importantly, like, how do we make sure that everyone benefits?
Everyone benefits
from this technological shift.
Technological shifts.
I mean, this has been a
good deep dive.
Mind blowing.
A good deep dive, yeah.
Deep dive, yeah. I mean, we've gone from like
the high level to the nitty gritty to like.
It's amazing how it all comes together.
The nitty-gritty details.
It really is, yeah.
Of the algorithms and the training data. And it's amazing to see how all these pieces come together to create something.
To create something so...
As powerful and potentially transformative.
It's potentially transformative.
I show UI.
So is there anything else we need to unpack about ShowUI? We've covered so much ground already, you know, from like how ShowUI sees the digital world to like how it could actually change the way we work.
Big stuff.
Yeah. But something tells me there's more to this story.
I think so too.
Like what other rabbit holes are we hopping down today?
You know, you were spot on earlier.
Okay.
When you compared ShowUI's training data to a gourmet meal.
Okay.
You know, developers were so incredibly picky about what they fed this AI, and that's a story I think worth exploring.
Okay, you've got my attention.
Okay.
What makes this training data?
All right, so it's all about like understanding the visual language of these graphical user interfaces.
Okay.
So think of it like teaching someone like a new language. You wouldn't just like hand them a dictionary and expect them to understand.
Right, you'd have to teach them like the grammar, the sentence structure.
The grammar, the sentence structure.
The nuances.
The nuances
of how the words are used.
Exactly, and that's exactly what the developers did with ShowUI. They curated these data sets that were designed to teach it the rules of the digital world. You know, the visual cues that tell us, what elements are interactive, how they relate to each other, and what actions they trigger.
So instead of showing it just random images, they were giving it like...
They're giving it structured lessons. Yeah, in the grammar of GUIs.
That's fascinating.
It's pretty wild.
But didn't we already talk about this?
We did.
They focused on visual elements like buttons and icons.
We did, but the details of like how they actually built these data sets are really interesting.
Okay.
So for example, when it came to training ShowUI on like web data, they knew that most AI models are already pretty good at recognizing text, thanks to optical character recognition.
That makes sense. We've all seen those tools that can pull text from images. So what did they focus on instead?
So they decided to prioritize like the visually rich elements that make a GUI interactive. So things like buttons, drop-down menus, checkboxes, and they actually built this special tool that could like parse web pages and extract just those specific elements. So they created this data set that was much smaller, but much more focused on the visual cues that ShowUI needed to learn.
So it's not just about seeing like the text on a button.
Right.
It's about understanding.
It's about understanding what that button does.
Yeah. What that button does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the difference between recognizing the word play and understanding that clicking a button with that word on it will actually start a video.
You got it. You got it.
Okay, that's a really important distinction.
It is, yeah.
And what about desktop data?
Okay, so desktop data...
Was that different?
It was a little bit different.
Okay.
So the data sets were much smaller to begin with. So they got creative and they used a technique called reverse engineering to analyze these existing annotations. Mm-hmm. And then they used this powerful language model, GPT-4o. GPT-4o, yeah.
Isn't that one of those
large language models?
Yeah, large language models.
That everyone's talking about. Like the ones that can write poems.
The ones that can write poems and write code and like hold conversation.
Yeah, hold conversations, yeah.
That one.
That's the one.
Okay.
So they essentially used it to ask questions about the visual element.
So they were using an AI to generate training data for another AI.
That's exactly what they did.
That's pretty meta.
It's pretty meta, yeah. But it allowed them to expand those smaller data sets and make them more robust.
Okay.
And then for mobile data, they specifically sought out data sets that included descriptions of what each element did. Okay. So ShowUI could learn, that tapping a certain icon opens a menu or swiping left deletes an item.
So it's not just about the looks.
That's not just about the looks.
It's about
It's about the functionality.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like they were giving ShowUI.
It's like giving it a user manual for the digital world.
Yeah, not just a picture book.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really cool.
It's really impressive.
It's incredible to think about like all the work that went into
a lot of work.
Creating this training data.
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder ShowUI is so good.
This is so good
at what it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's one more detail I think that's worth mentioning.
Okay.
The data sets they chose varied significantly in size.
Okay.
So, for example, there were far fewer samples of desktop data compared to web or mobile data.
Oh, I see the problem here.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that like bias the model?
That's a good point.
Towards the data types with more samples.
That's what you would think, right?
Yeah, like if it's all way more examples of websites than desktop apps.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it just be better?
You would think it would be better.
At interacting with websites.
At interacting with websites, right. So that was something that developers were very aware of. They used this a clever sampling strategy during training.
Okay.
Essentially like weighting the different data types to make sure that ShowUI was exposed to a balanced mix of web, mobile, and desktop.
So they were making sure it got like a well-rounded education.
Well-rounded education.
And all the different flavors of GUIs.
No picky eating allowed.
No picky eating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about creating an AI that can confidently navigate this diverse digital world
that we've created.
Yeah, we've created,
This has been a wild one.
A wild ride.
Yeah.
This deep dive.
It's been a journey. We've gone from the high-level concepts.
The high-level concept
of AI interacting with GUIs to the like
the nitty-gritty
detail of algorithms.
Training data.
And the training data.
It's amazing to see how
And it's amazing
how it all comes together.
To create something. As powerful and potentially transformative.
As powerful and potentially transformative,
As ShowUIs.
Yeah.
It really is.
And we started this deep dive talking about how ShowUI could change the way we work.
Yeah.
But it's bigger than that. It's about changing our
relationship with
technology. Yeah. I mean, if AI can seamlessly
navigate our digital world.
Navigate the digital world.
And what does that mean for
how
we learn, how we communicate?
How we communicate.
How we spend our leisure time.
Yeah, big questions.
Yeah, those are the questions that we need to be
thinking about these.
As we move forward.
Yeah.
ShowUI is a powerful tool.
It is a powerful tool.
And like any tool.
It
can be used.
It can be used for good or for ill.
For good or for ill.
That's right.
It's up to us. To shape the future.
To shape the future.
That we that we want to see.
That we want to see, yeah.
And on that note,
yeah,
we'll leave you with this final thought.
All right.
As AI continues to evolve, and blur the lines between the physical and digital world.
Physical and digital.
It's more important than ever.
More important than ever, yeah.
To be informed.
To be informed.
To engage in these conversations. And to think critically. About the role.
We want technology to play.
That we want technology to play.
In our lives.
In our lives, yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everybody.
Until next time.